Hello and welcome everyone, I am Madals and welcome to some Heart of the Swarm action. We do have a fantastic game between two amazing players, so let me introduce them to each and every one of you. In the lower right position, as the red Protoss, we do have Kitty. His opponent in the top left, really not needing an introduction, he is so well known, it is Polt. Wow. Like, just wow, I'm excited about this game, I'm excited to see what happens, but most of all, I am excited to see what strategic developments have become of the PvT matchup from these two. So, the map is Akalion Wastes. It is a big map, you can therefore play quite greedy on it. Both of these two players can potentially take quite an easy third base should we get to that point because of this destructible rock tower. Kitty does have the option of going for some fun stuff with the mothership core. Don't know if it's going to be utilised, but of course with photon overcharge on the Nexus you can do some interesting things defensively. With mass recall you can do some very fun things with being very aggressive early on, so hopefully that will work out well. But for the meantime they're both just going for fairly normal things, a gateway and a barracks, so no cheese as of yet. This is a cheese free zone. And as such, we're definitely going to be going for a bit of a longer game. So let me remind everyone that, of course, if this is one of the first casts of mine you have watched, remember I do get up games every single day of the week. So do make sure that you either hit subscribe or just check back frequently because I get a whole host of content out. I think I'm up to nearly 800 videos on my YouTube alone, and of course do loads of live events as well, so do make sure you check that out, and also my Twitter and Shizzle is down in the bottom right on my overlay. Now the one thing I'm noticing from Kitty, back to the game now, is of course that he's got the second gas up, 2 probes in each gas. That is quite substantial just due to the fact that it's a decent amount of gas income. You can be quite aggressive. I'm thinking we're gonna see an early mothership core, maybe going on for some aggression with that as well. This single SCV wandering its way across the map really quite boldly actually, so this is just the early scout. Probably gonna get denied, or at least could get denied should there have been a zealot rather than a stalker rather than a zealot, but the important thing to note is that there's a Reaper coming out for Polt. No longer needing a tech lab has made Reaper openings really quite common, especially just to how maneuverable they are. It's very effective if your opponent doesn't have a Stalker out. So, just some scouting information going off. There's the Chrono Boost for the Stalker as well. So, Zealot Stalker harassment likely to come out now. The first Reaper is about to pop, so is on its way across, and now getting moved. So, Tech Lab following this up. It was just one early Reaper rather than a big commitment. I think that's the correct way to use them. After their change, they're a lot faster, but they deal a lot less damage, which means massing them up isn't quite as useful. The best thing to do is to just kite with them, as we're seeing Polt do perfectly right now. So Kitty is most likely going to lose this Stalker, and as such, just got to back away. Got to really try to out-micro this Reaper, which is getting very low now. If the Stalker goes down over here, good win, but with the Stalker there as well, that is something you need to back away from. So here comes down the heal up on this Reaper. Heals up very, very quickly, but the mothership core now on the field as well, just as I expected we would see. Following it up, we do have the Stargate as well. Very aggressive play out of Kitty at the moment. He's only just starting the Nexus in front of us, as we're seeing. 3 probes on each gas, and with this mothership core, with the Zealot and Stalker, potentially quite a bit of damage could be done, but it looks like the mothership core is going to go across alone, and with Time Warp you can actually delay a lot. You can pick off things like this single SCV with the mothership core, and as such that is going to be very irritating. The Marines would have to come out of the bunker, and then even if that doesn't get many kills, any kills is better than none. So straight away, one SCV going down. You can't actually risk taking those Marines out quite yet, just in case there was a couple of Stalkers or something waiting for it. But now we're seeing that there is the Oracle in production. It's getting chrono boosted out. This is a good map to go for Oracle on because you do have a lot of dead space around the main that you can attempt to utilize. But with the engineering bay for Polt, I'm half expecting him to grab down a missile turret fairly quickly, just having seen the mothership core. And there we go, the missile turret is on its way. So this means the Oracle style that Kitty is trying to employ may not be too successful. Pushing across the map now, gonna just go in. The supply depot should spot it fairly early as well, so that is great news for Polt, who's also getting the missile turret at the natural as well, which is key to see. Looking in terms of other upgrades, Stim Pack is nearly finished. About 3/4 done, will be done in the next few seconds, and as such, this is going to be a standard Marine Marauder force out of Polt for the time being. The Oracle just on its way through into the main base now. That missile turret will put an end to quite a lot of the harassment. The Oracle won't be able to snipe off anything there, so we'll have to be very careful. Taking an awful lot of damage, needs to be microed back quickly, but unfortunately does fall. That is a big loss right there, and Kitty should have pulled back there, because you cannot afford to lose that Oracle so early on. The second one now, and a lot less potent, and that is the problem in itself. As we see here, Polt has taken the supply lead. Kitty is just getting up a couple more gateways as well as the robotics facility. Third and fourth gas on its way down. Meanwhile, Polt just getting a good mineral income, only on one gas still. But in comes the Oracle yet again, going to try and pick some more stuff off. Can it get in at a good angle? Needs to just skirt around the edge of that missile turret. Going to start going to work on that supply depot. Probably won't be able to take it out. No Marines getting pulled up either on SCV. That's good. This is the sort of control that you need to have. A cancel force on the supply depot will temporarily cause problems for Polt because he's already at 61 or 62 supply. Needs to be very careful. That Oracle getting quite low on health there. Don't want that second one falling either. This mothership core still just skirting around in the middle of the map, not doing too much for the time being. Behind this, of course, Kitty getting up that robotics bay ready for the Colossus tech, as well as the Forge. So late game still looking fairly strong, ready to deal with this Bioforce. No medevacs here at all. Not even a starport yet. The first factory only just coming down, which means that as long as you hold this off, you're actually going to be able to be safe for quite a long period of time. But it's a scary force. It's going to be a +1 weapons with stim, with combat shield push. Concussive shell has not been researched, but still, it's going to need a photon overcharge in the Nexus. How well can the mothership core hold this off? Polt just at the natural now, sending one Marine up first to get a good scout out of what's there. There goes the photon overcharge, and with that, it should be able to hold it off, especially now the Immortals come down as well. So this is the situation where Polt has gained near complete map control. We do see Kitty trying to push forward, get some force fields down. He's going to try and engage this. Polt is doing good damage though, and losing all of those zealots could be a problem for Kitty. Strange point to engage, a time warp on its way, trying to prevent the kiting. That Immortal, of course, the most important thing in this composition, and it will, this push does get cleaned up, but at what cost? A lot went down there for Kitty. We can see losing more resources than Polt this game so far, and I think pushing forward even with those force fields may not have been worthwhile. It was not worth losing that many zealots and of course the stalkers. So because of this, we do see that Kitty's ground force is quite low. There is a single Colossus out now, which will help. The mothership core being forced to be remade was taken out in the middle of the map. This Oracle still just running around, not doing too much. Polt taking his third base as well. Extended thermal lance coming down now, so this is just gearing up towards late game tech. Interestingly for Polt is that we don't see yet any medevacs. The first two only just in production now. So doubt we'll see Polt push forward until he has probably +1 carapace, +1 armor, and also some medevacs out. That's going to be the good point. He's taking out those rocks as well, and I'm quite interested that he chose to take this expansion as opposed to the top right, because that with the rock tower is very easily defended. So interesting how different players are choosing to go about these expansions at the moment. As we see Kitty taking the one to the lower left behind this rock tower, so probably will take that out shortly. Second Colossus is on the field, still chrono boosting more out, which is the right thing to be doing. We're probably switching to getting some voidways in the late game as well. Very strong indeed, just against pretty much everything, to be honest. So that's really the standard we're seeing late game from Protoss at the moment. We'll probably get some High Templar out as well, just because they're still just as strong with Storm and Colossi. But definitely think there's space for some Voidways in the Force now, and it can make things very awkward for Terran players to engage in. So we'll wait to see how it all goes, but for the moment we've got the Colossi there, just waiting, just trying to stay in a defensive position. They're really just trying to force back all of this force. It's not a large infantry force, and Polt will be forced to go back. A good time warp. Could have been slightly more forward, but a couple of units for free is always going to be good. Any unit you get for free is always a good trade. That Marine did come and poke in, got a scout out on the third base. The factory will likely go down. But importantly for Polt, he's got his his orbit commands up. That is, of course, a lot sooner than Kitty got up his third Nexus, and as such, economically speaking, Polt is still ahead, even though the work count is slightly in Kitty's favour. In terms of teching behind this, the first Vikings hitting the field now, just due to the fact that we've seen the Colossi there. The double drop gearing up. This is exciting to see. Are we going to see a boost in to get the quick in-out attack? We've got infantry coming up to push the natural at the same time, but straight away with ninja reactions, we've got Kitty up here with a handful of stalkers ready to hold this off. We've got the Colossi and the small force of the natural pushing it forward, but these medevacs are now going to have problems. They do use the boost ability, trying to get in. The stalkers and zealots are going to just engage straight up. One of the medevacs trying to get focused down. It does manage to get away. More zealots warping in. The stalkers getting taken out, and this is going to mean the Kitty will have to pull back more forces to deal with this double drop. It was very powerful. You need more than just a handful of stalkers to knock out 2 medevacs. If it was just the one, it probably would have been fine. The Colossi trying to engage as best they can, and will finally be able to knock out all of those units. But to be honest, Polt, he's fairly happy. He's really containing his opponent in the sense that Kitty cannot leave his base right now. There's just a nice force sitting outside. There's the risk of drops, and if you were to move forward, you'd have to be very prepared to go for a mass recall with that mothership core. Behind this, of course, Polt getting up a good Viking count. He's already up to 5 on the field. He's getting 2-2 researched ASAP. The 1-1 only just done for Kitty, getting 2-2 out, so they should hit 2-2 at similar times, assuming chrono boosts are consistent for the Protoss player. But my concern is just that Polt has vision of all of the map. Just look at Polt's vision compared to that of Kitty's, completely blinding his opponent bar this one observer, which really should get taken out because this is giving Kitty a nice count. The transition, we've got Blink on its way. We don't yet though seem to have a Templar Archives, and that's surprising because you need those high Templar later game. Otherwise it just leaves you open to a Terran getting out an awful lot of Vikings ready to deal with those Colossi incredibly easily, to be honest. So hoping to see a Templar Archives come down shortly. We do have here a drop trying to get cleaned up, but a triple drop on its way through. Kitty is going to have to warp in some more stalkers in order to deal with this. Got a handful of zealots there. The cannon sitting at the third base as well will help, but a triple drop is very potent indeed. These stalkers are going to have to focus it down. A couple more would be great, because otherwise it may not get taken down in time. 2 more are now hitting the field. Blink is nearly done. In come the medevacs. Kitty will probably have to pull back more units here, just due to having 3 medevacs if they decide to go in. But for the moment, Polt is not feeling it. He says, no, you've got a lot of stalkers there to defend. I'll lose at least 1, maybe even 2 medevacs there. Not worth the push. Instead, just using his map dominance to take a 4th base. He's also got his 5th command center on its way down as well. Definitely taking the lead economically, even catching up in terms of the worker count. Only a few behind. This rock tower, although taken down, is now getting cleaned out by Polt. The factory trying to get knocked down by these stalkers. A quick stim from the Marines and Marauders is going to come around, trying to get a couple of units. Concussive shell will allow 1, probably 2 stalkers to fall, and then getting out there not having lost anything. Polt being quite cost effective throughout this later stages of the game, and behind this still building up a very sizable force. 14 Vikings out, and with no high Templar, it really is a problem for Kitty, because all Polt has to do is knock out those Colossi, admittedly 6 of them, soon to be 7, but once they're dead, his ground army will be able to clean up the gateway units, and we're probably going to see an engagement very shortly. They are starting to move towards each other. Are they going to go Polt getting the scan off, trying to work out exactly where his opponent is? This little bit of dead space could play into this matchup very significantly, because the Vikings, if they position themselves over it, may be able to get a Colossi fairly easy. And now we're seeing the infantry move in. The Vikings right over the dead space, exactly where Polt would want them. The first Colossus does fall. The mothership core gets taken down as well now. Additional Colossi falling. The Stalker's not focusing the Vikings at all at the moment. And we see already 3 of the 6 Vikings dead. The infantry coming around from behind. Kitty is in an absolutely terrible position right now, isolated from the natural base. The Vikings trying to clean out everything else. A couple of good force fields. There's the blink under the Vikings, but is it enough, or is it too little, too late? 2 Colossi do still stay up. A good number of stalkers. Luckily the force fields holding back the Marines and Marauders, and actually not getting focus fire on the Colossi at all yet. 1 now falls. The second is going to get taken down, but Polt lost an awful lot there and will not be able to clean up this game quite yet. But my goodness, that was a tough engagement. Meanwhile, this single Marine is getting a good scout out on this 4th base, trying to chip away at it, but Polt still knows that he's got his own, and he's got his 5th. We're now seeing both the Templar Archives and Dark Shrine coming down for Kitty. Maybe feeling a bit behind after that, just due to how many Colossi were sniped off. Of course, Just credit, though, to Kitty for how many Colossi there were out, that even 14 Vikings couldn't have taken it down, but I can't help but feel maybe if there was a quicker blink under them, perhaps it would have gone slightly better. Now we do see Polt going in for round 2. His Viking count is only a 2, but they're nowhere to be seen, and that doesn't matter though. With only 1 Colossus, he is going to be able to keep pushing forward. Polt, if he manages to snipe off that Colossus, it would be huge, but not at the moment. The Zealots aren't reaching the front lines. The sentries are there, the stalkers there. The second Colossus should be popping shortly. Polt is applying the pressure as best he can though. He is trying to deal a large amount of damage, but those force fields, that considerable damage from the Colossus should be enough. A Zealot does fall there though for free. And importantly for Kitty, the second Colossus now out, a couple of Archons morphing in, and with this, hopefully he'll be able to stay in this game a bit longer. Polt though, taking quite a substantial supply lead, a 30 supply lead, most of which is in the army. As we can see, 160 to 70. That is a big difference. This 4th base is a giant target for Polt right now, and with +3 ship weapons coming down, those Vikings are gonna shred through the Colossus as if they're not even there. And now this is where there's some big problems. So many medevacs are up. Kitty has got to engage this just right. The Mothership Core coming in. The Archons are there. A Time Warp prevents quite a few of those Marauders from retreating. A couple of medevacs are going to go down here as well. 1, maybe 2 could get sniped off, but the high ground is going to give Polt the advantage he requires, even with the Mothership Core there granting vision. Polt now securing his 5th base. He's got a defensive planetary fortress as well, just because he can. With +3 ship weapons, now nearly a quarter done, he's slowly getting the way he wants to in terms of being able to deal with this late game composition, but now knows that there's Archons there. The one thing that I haven't seen Kitty go for quite yet, just due to not having enough resources for it, is try and go for any sort of DT harassment, because if we actually look around, Polt only has a missile turret in his natural. He does not have one of the 3rd. Those rock towers are admittedly up, but there's no vision of them. And if you could sneak into the 3rd, which you could through this way, no detection there. There is actually detection down at this 5th now, but of course, if you go into the 3rd base, that could potentially be very nice indeed. Looking here though, a Doom Drop is on its way across, and my goodness, Kitty is not going to notice it. There's 1 cannon there, 1 cannon at the 3rd, but to be honest, with just so many units in those dropships, it may not be enough. May even be able to skirt through past that cannon with the boost ability. Is it going to go? Polt simultaneously getting ready to push into the front, getting a scan off, getting a look at what his opponent's got. We should see the boost shortly. There we go, coming straight in, running right past that cannon. A warping goes as fast as he can, but it's not going to be enough. 1 DT there, but of course look at how many units. All that tech is going to go down. Meanwhile, the 3rd base is under siege. We've got a good count of Vikings here. The Colossi are going to get focused. The 3rd Nexus does survive, but the Mothership Core goes down. Meanwhile, this drop in the main is getting cleaned up by a mass warping of Zealots, but the Templar Archives dead. Dark Shrine dead, and as a result, the tech for Kitty now limited purely to getting out Colossi, but the counter-aggression, will it be enough? Kitty now does have the supply lead. So many Zealots there. The drop trying to come down into the natural base. A good number of workers have been killed from these drops, but really the key thing was the fact that tech was destroyed, and that tech destruction is really gonna hurt Kitty after this push. But while the army is still on the field, Polt could be in some problems. His top base is gonna get denied very quickly. If it should be scouted. Oh my goodness, if this doesn't get spotted, that would be insane. But it looks like for the moment Kitty just trying to go forward. Those medevacs boosting out of there. Unfortunately, a good blink. 1 goes down. Will the second one? No, gets away with 4 health. And I cannot believe that Kitty has not noticed this base in the top position. That is so unfortunate right there. Meanwhile, looking round, we've got good production coming down. We've obviously got the Templar Archives finished, the Dark Shrine nearly back up. But here comes Kitty with the supply advantage. A lot of ghosts are there, but still those 3 Colossi at the back. The Vikings are going to have to do some good damage against it. Will these Colossus fall in time? The answer, we will wait and see, but we can see the Vikings are focusing them down. Polt pulling back, having lost that planetary fortress. 2 of the Colossi are down, no Colossus remaining, and with this, Polt can start pushing forward. Kitty forced back with only Stalkers remaining. That is always going to be the concern. Some good storms are starting to hit, but just look at the damage coming right now. We had some good EMPs going off. I heard some snipes as well, but this is the problem for Kitty. Can he resupply fast enough. More High Templar are coming down. This third base potentially in a big problem. And of course, Polt still sitting on 6 bases. That is the sort of point where actually, if I'm on 6 bases as a Terran against the 4 of a Protoss, I am feeling happy. So what do you do in this situation? You've got to turtle up a bit. You've got to get up both more High Templar and more Colossi, and you've just got to hold off this push, and it is such a big push. Polt is going to be coming for blood now. This third Nexus has survived by the skin of its teeth twice this game already, so with the third push, is it going to be enough? Polt getting those scans off, trying to get an exact take on the army. A couple of good EMPs will completely neutralize these High Templar. Can he do it? In he comes, some snipe going straight down. There's the EMP on all of the High Templar. No more storms. A quick cloak goes down. The Vikings will be able to snipe off all of the Colossi, but now this is the problem. It's gateway units against Marine, Marauder and Ghosts. So much damage going down. A couple of great EMPs knock out the shields of all of the Protoss army, and this now just leaves Polt open to be the aggressor. He's pushing in. Kitty is holding on by the skin of his teeth. The Stalkers trying to micro their way to the max. They're trying to deal the damage, but there is the GG, and Polt was victorious. But my goodness, that was some quality Terran v Protoss action. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching this cast. I hope you did enjoy. Remember, see you all tomorrow for yet another new game. Bye for now.